It is a must that I keep myself fit and I keep myself strong at all times. It has helped me to become better at my life purpose, which is, I don't know, up to you to decide and up to whatever powers reside in the universe to decide. But day by day, I know that I get stronger, I get faster, I get better as I get older, which is contrary to the fact that throughout our lives, as we grew up, they always told us that at some point you're going to start regressing, but I do not believe that, because those are all just concepts made by another person, concepts made by another human mind that may or may not have been realized in real time, but as long as you have not seen it with your own two eyes, the concept ceases to exist. Whether it exists in reality or not, in your reality, it does not exist because you're not aware of it. So when you're not aware of things, you are literally left in a position where you're scrambling to survive, because now you're relying on your instinct as opposed to actually having a plan, a strategy, and applying it. And that's why I would tell you today, knowledge is power, mate. You always hear that saying, you always hear that quote, but I don't think you truly understand what it means. Because once you witness ignorance, or you were ignorant, and you manage to enlighten yourself and make yourself more aware, you realize that knowledge is power. As long as you do not have knowledge, you are at the mercy of whatever powers have that knowledge that you do not have access to. It's very important as a person that you learn continuously, regardless of whether you're in school or not, or whether you're going to work or not. Whatever position you are in life, you must continue to learn, because the more knowledge you acquire, the more you have access to the universe and what it has to offer. Just from a mental standpoint, this is not about money and it's not about experience, it's strictly about knowledge. Because you can experience many things, but if you do not have the knowledge of the finer details of what's happening within those experiences, then a lot is going to go over your head. It's just like one man enters a building, a layman, normal man enters a building, all he sees is nothing. He just sees a building. But now you call a construction worker, a construction man, to enter that building, and all he's going to see is opportunity to elevate that building or to destroy that building. He's going to see much more. He's going to know the inner workings of a building, and he's going to know the basic structure of a building because he has knowledge of it. That's his trade and that's his work. Therefore, when it comes to the opportunities that lie within that building, who do you think is going to exercise those opportunities better? The man, the layman, the normal man, the everyday man, or the construction man, the man who does construction for a living? 9 out of 10 times, of course, the man who does construction for a living is going to come out on top. And that's what knowledge will do for you. Knowledge is the key. Knowledge is the power, the juice, the squeeze, and the source, mate. Once you have knowledge of your habits, knowledge of your doings, that's the only time that you can start to fix them and start to rewire your brain and rewire the things that you do and the habits that you have. But it can only come with knowledge. Some people were born into the situations that they're in. Some people were born into abusive families, abusive surroundings. You'll see someone start drinking at the age of maybe 7, or their mom was feeding them alcohol to make them go to sleep. And that, for that person, in their reality, to their knowledge, that is life. Therefore, they don't even have the knowledge to actually fix it. It's only once they get older and they start experiencing other people that they meet on their own that they decide that there is actually another way to live life. And it's only because they acquire that knowledge that they manage to pull themselves out of those positions. But a lot of them stay stuck there. And it's because they don't have the knowledge. The people in poverty right now, the reason why they're in poverty is because they do not have the knowledge. It's not that someone has to come and help them, someone has to come and save them. No. Nobody saves nobody, man. You have to save yourself. Once you save yourself, you can go and save other people. But in the case of poverty, there's no savior. The only savior is yourself. And the only way to save yourself out of a position of poverty is to have knowledge, access to knowledge. And that's what the poverty-stricken are denied, which is access to knowledge. Whereas the rest of us, the rest of the world, they have access to the knowledge, therefore they have no excuses to not exercise their knowledge and start manifesting their realities. Knowledge is the key, knowledge is all. And that's the way that it has always been since the beginning, from the first man who picked up a stone tool to the first man who picked up a gun. The only reason it went from a stone to a gun was because of knowledge. The only reason it evolved was because they gained more and more knowledge the more they looked into the things that God had provided him on this plane we call the planet, the world. At a certain level of life, your excuses become invalid as to why you're not manifesting your reality and manifesting the dream life that you have. Unless you have no imagination and you haven't thought of what you want to manifest. That could be the only reason. Because you honestly have no excuses as long as you have a smart device, access to the internet, access to a banking system. You have no excuses as to why you are still broke. You have no excuses as to why you are still unhealthy, unfit. Because you've grown up in an environment where all of this, the good and the bad, has been made available to you. And now it comes down to the choices that you make and the decisions that you make on a day-to-day. And that's how it starts. It starts on a day-to-day basis, because what comes from one day turns into 2, turns into 3, turns into a week, turns into a month, turns into years, decades, and eventually it's your life. The decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis are what determine where you end up, because those decisions compound, they build up exponentially, doubling, tripling, quadrupling. And a lot of us people have a tendency to say, one day I'm going to do this, one day I'm going to do that. Not realizing that every day that you make that decision to say one day, all of the other decisions that are going against you have been compounding, and they're just adding and adding. And the more you keep saying one day, instead of starting that day, you're just compounding more for yourself. There are no excuses once you have knowledge to these things. In the end, it's now down to you choosing what you are choosing. And I do this myself. There are a lot of things that I don't want to do, but I still do. I continue to choose them day by day, week by week, month by month. And I guess it's part of being human. But at least, if I'm to comfort myself, I have acquired the knowledge and I have not denied the knowledge. A lot of people choose to be ignorant. It's not that they're not capable of acquiring this knowledge, they choose to be ignorant. Because with knowledge comes truth, and with truth comes pain. With truth comes triumph, with truth comes joy. But it takes time for you to actually see it. Because when you hear that truth in that moment, it's usually a bitter pill to swallow. But as time goes on, you start to realize how if you kept living your life any other way, it was going to end up much worse than it actually did. And therefore, you'll thank yourself for accepting the truth as it was, and for taking the steps to make sure that that truth becomes a lie and it becomes invalid. Every day, man, that you keep pressing that buy and not sticking to your trading plan is another day that you do not reach your goal as a trader. And it's a difficult world that we live in, man. I can never look at someone and say, why are you not acquiring knowledge, or why are you not acting on the knowledge that you have, when I know that this world has been designed in a way that you can be destructive and you can be creative. And for some reason, the destructive things are much easier to do than the creative things. So it's very easy to fall into the loop and to fall into the trap. The best thing is to never be in it. The best thing would be to have grown up in a family where you didn't have to start building yourself again. But sometimes that's not possible. In most cases, that's not possible. Because for that to be possible, you need a sound and stable and safe environment. But the world, the planet, is far from sound, stable and safe. Things happen every single day. People die, natural disasters occur, financial disasters occur. So many things happen, war, crime, and these things are the things that prevent that environment from occurring. But when you look at some of them are man-made, and then some of them are just a design of nature. Therefore, the way that the game is set up is the way that it's meant to be. And the way that life is right now is the way that it's meant to be. Not everyone is meant to have that environment, because that's the test of life, to see who can come out of those environments and still make a mark on the world. I wouldn't even want to say make a mark on the world, but to make a positive change in the world, because that's what you are meant to do. If you end up doing that, that was your life purpose, because that's what the planet brought you to do. That's what the planet does. The planet sends out beings of different energy to maintain the balance that it has, so that evolution can continue to take place. When something is out of balance, when that leader has been on the throne for too long, the planet has ways of dealing with that. And depending on what the situation is like, if the situation is terrible, the planet will send someone, whether young, old, from whatever situation that they were in. It could be anyone. It could be Sally, the quiet girl in the back of the class. It could be Martha, the shy secretary. It could be John, the truck driver. It could be Tom, the lawyer. But the planet will send someone to restore balance. And that is what the planet constantly does, is it creates different types of beings to maintain that balance for evolution, keeping it just hard enough that the people and the animals and the plants have to maintain and continue evolving, but not too difficult that everything gets destroyed. But it always maintains that balance. Things will never be too easy. Things will never be too hard. Things are just the way that they are. You have to understand these things. And the only way you understand these things is with knowledge. Once you have knowledge, you can kind of sit back and try and enjoy your life, because you understand that the things that you are crying for, the things that you're fighting for, they're all very small when it comes to what's really going on here and what the planet is actually doing. Because the planet has been doing this for a long time, and it continues to do it throughout the decades, the millennia, over billions of years, starting from small cells, turning into whatever is going to turn them into. Therefore, in essence, you must trust the universe and trust that it will give you the knowledge that you need for you to thrive and not survive. Because a lot of people, a lot of us have come here to survive, but that is not the purpose of all of this. The purpose of all of this is to survive and then to thrive, and to experience your own individual evolution the same way that the planet is experiencing its evolution.